This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts and civic leaders to review the morning newspapers, tell us what's happening in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But first of all, I'd like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Thanks ever so much to them. And we have Ruth, Dooley from there as well today. So before I introduce the panel, I'd also like to say, please, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Right, let's get on with the panel. We've got Chris Creed, CEO of Creed FoodServices. A big congratulations to him and his team. Last year, they managed to hit a turnover £100 million, bouncing back from the pandemic. So big congratulations to you guys. We've got Simon Ford, CEO of Allstone and Speedy Skips, turnover 26 million. And did you know there are 5,000 skips that these guys have on the roads? We've got Adrian Goodall, director of Rockby Merchant Development Limited. They've got ambitious plans of £30 million development at the Downing's warehouse at Baker's Quay in Gloucester. So we'll touch on that, I'm sure. And finally, and never last but not least, we've got Ruth Dooley, who's a partner at Hazelwood's, and she's also the chairman of G1st LEP. Welcome everybody to Punchline Talks this morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to quickly share the screen and go over the headlines. So it is really dominated by the royals. Harry spills his secrets in devastating memoir. The UK monarchy facing its worst crisis for 30 years. The Daily Express, reconcile, but you sold your soul, Harry. The Daily Star, put your dukes up. The Daily Mail, oh, spare us, says the Daily Mail. The Daily Telegraph, please don't marry Camilla. The Sun, Harry, I did coke and weed. The Mirror, it's over now. It's such a shame. Look at those two kids there, look lovely. The Financial Times, number 10 unveils anti-strike law to enforce minimum service levels in the key areas. The Guardian, unions attack PM plan to sack workers who break strike. And obviously we've got the royal family on the front again. And that's where we are with the titles today, the front pages. So we're going to start with you today, Ruth, if that's okay. What have you picked up for the papers? I think we're all up to here with the royals, aren't we? But let's see what you picked.
Okay, well, I did pick up the strikes rather than the royals. As you say, we're sort of up to here with that. So I think the strikes is to me much more important because in the Daily Mail, there is an article saying that now 1 in 6 firms are saying they have been impacted adversely by the rail strikes. And a quarter of companies are saying they're unable to obtain key products that they need due to the strikes. And that was actually from data collected by the Office of National Statistics in November. So probably the situation is even worse now. And to my mind, this is just really the key issue that we're facing at the moment as businesses. I mean, it's been a real tsunami, isn't it? If you think about it, Brexit, followed by COVID, followed by high inflation, costs, energy, and the strikes on top of that. I feel so sorry for, the successful, great businesses that have just been hit by issue after issue, and they're sort of struggling through, and they're probably up to their eyes in debt because of COVID loans, and they really just don't need it. And to my mind, the bigger picture is let's sort these crises out. From business perspective, obviously the rail crisis is probably the one that has the most impact, but from the health perspective, the nurses, etc., it's grinding our country to a halt, and it's the thing we least need at the moment. So I'm saying both sides, for goodness sake, compromise, get together, sort out these issues, and let's get the country moving again.
I mean, it's terrible for the hospitality trade in London, wasn't it, as well? Yeah. People not going to see the shows, not eating out, not traveling. I mean, I was supposed to go to London myself, go see our daughter, just couldn't, just didn't go in the end. What other stories have you picked up? Is there anything else, Ruth?
Yeah, last night we saw the return to our screens of both Dragon's Den and The Apprentice. Now, I was busy last night, so I haven't got to see them yet, and I do want to see them both. But I did read the critics of them in the Times today, and the Times has actually only gave The Apprentice 2 stars out of 5. It's saying it's a tired old formula. I think this is the 17th show, how the candidates that picked a complete, trying to think of a polite word for them, but they are people who are not the people you would like to do business with. They are people who have got high egos but they make good television, and that's why they get picked. The Times also pointed out that they call Alan Sugar, he called him Lord Sugar, but Karen Brady is just known as Karen, not as Baroness Brady. So I thought that was quite an interesting comment as well. That there's a bit of a difference between what the candidates are supposed to call each of them. And they flew them all out to Antigua, and they probably spent a lot of money doing that. But it makes television. It's the same on other sort of shows of that sort, that they pick the weirdest people because they make good television. So you think on one hand that's not so good perhaps for the image of business. I think The Apprentice, I think Dragon's Den is a different story. I think Dragon's Den is great because there you have got genuine potential entrepreneurs, some of them with more likely success than others. And yesterday I was on BBC Radio Gloucestershire, and there was a successful candidate from Dragon's Den called Hannah, who set up her own business called Toddle, which was dribble-proof lip balm, because apparently the cosmetics not really designed for toddlers. And so she's come up with this range, and she was obviously really impressive on Dragon's Den. And they were fighting over giving her backing, which was really good to hear. And I like that show because I think it really encourages young people to say, I can do this, I can get off my backside and I can go and build my own business. And this idea that I've had, let's give it a go, let's try it. And I think The Apprentice less so, but Dragon's Den certainly is a real icon for a show that encourages entrepreneurial behaviour.
Okay, no, I totally agree. I don't watch them myself anymore, given up on them a long time ago. I just can't stand the fact that they don't pick the best people, they pick it for TV. But there you go, that's my own personal view. Let's go over to you, Simon, if that's okay. Right, Simon, what have you picked out from the papers? Thanks for that, Ruth.
Firstly, the nurses chief about pay demands, front of the Times. I think there's more of a discussion, which isn't a vote-winning discussion, about the whole of the NHS and the state of it and how it should be run and the format in which it should go. What the NHS was set up for so many years ago is not what it is now. It's got to change and evolve. And the only way it's going to change and evolve and become profitable, if you like, and sustainable is by becoming commercial and becoming a business. Now a lot of people, I don't know, Chris or people like that would sort of agree that the most amount of money that most people make are out of governmental contracts. Now, so you've got to take that middle tier of management out of that business. You've got to set it on an insurance basis, not like the Americans, but a bit maybe like the Swedish system, where you've got 80% which is insured and then 20% which is means tested. And the problem is that it's overrun and you've got a lot of these bed blockers. I mean, we've experienced it. My uncle, who sadly died, but prior to that, he was number 36 in a queue of 36 ambulances outside the accident unit for 26 hours. I mean, it's unheard of, and you've got to get through those problems and sort it all out. Anyway, that's my view of it. It's not a vote winner for whatever party. You've got the weakest government, you've got the weakest opposition at the moment. Nobody will make decisions, and when they do make a decision, they do a stupid one like 25% corporation tax. Chris and myself, are we going to make money next year? We don't really want to. That's the bottom line of it. We'll do our best not to make any money and not to pay any tax, because it's going the wrong way. It's avoiding investment. It disencourages you from doing anything. Anyway, that's my rant on that.
Swedish model, if you don't mind me saying, Simon, because my best friend lives in Sweden, is that Sweden only has a population of 9 million or 8 million.
Yeah.
We have a population of 62 million. And the Swedish tax system is so heavy. Go try buy a pint of beer there, it's 8-9 quid or whatever, and the tax system is completely different. And so I kind of understand where you're coming from, but it's such a broken system, and it's
it's got to change or it'll die. Simple as that.
What about the unions then themselves? Do you think the unions themselves got too powerful at this particular moment? Everybody striking at the same time?
What you could have, you've got a real fine line between anarchism in now at the moment, because You know, you've got these, if there's one big general strike with everybody going out, you're going back to Ted Heath and all of that sort of 3-day working week rubbish, you know, and the tax and inflation was a similar sort of thing at the moment. We didn't have a war in Europe at that point in time, but it's so uncertain, you know, and to plan, you know, in advance with capex or investment or people when you're running businesses is very, very difficult. You know, it's you're almost having a crystal ball or going on TikTok and listening to the tarot cards to try and figure out what's going to go on. But no, it's just, you know, you're on top of, there's a lot of problems in business at the moment, you know, with supply chain issues and all of that sort of stuff. But the biggest problem that I see is people. You know, people have changed. Getting really good quality individuals that will work and do their job properly is very difficult. And when you do get hold of them, hold on to them, look after them, you know, and that's my only advice, really. You know, we've seen sort of the rise of the narcissist last year. You know, there's a lot of mental health issues with staff and with people, you know, for whatever. You see the true worth of people, you know, when the chips are down, don't you? Anyway, I'm moving on. Sony have invented a multimedia car, entertainment, you know, at its best, as it were. My only concern with all this, we're a sustainable business. We're in recycling and so forth. A lot of investment going forward in that area. Is the infrastructure there for all these electric cars if we've got to be forced to go down that route? You know, in 5-10 years' time, there's no diesel cars or whatever. I mean, one, who's going to pay for the cars? And secondly, that infrastructure isn't there at the moment. I know that for a fact, 'cause I've been in some of our electric cars, and then you've got to try and find a charging point and all the rest of it. I think it could work, you know, if, and it would be nice to think that all of that electric, if it came from wind power or other sort of sources other than nuclear or whatever, then it would work. It would be nice, wouldn't it? But that's an ideal world.
Okay.
The other one is, I see Amazon are laying off. They did initially announce 10,000 people, but now 18,000 people. They've obviously got a lot of people that can see what's coming, you know, maybe in the future, I don't know. But it's sort of sad news. I can remember when I was a kid in the 70s and in the 80s, when all you heard on the BBC News was 500 people made redundant, 1,000 people made redundant, you know, and it was just different companies all the time giving this bad news. And I thought that Amazon were a bit steadier than others because that's the way shopping and buying has gone. You know, you don't see many people on the high street now, but
it looks like to me though, Simon, I'll have to stop you there if you don't mind, because we are kind of
yeah,
you know,
sorry.
It's okay, no worries at all. I think a lot of it might be this Amazon Fresh as well. They sort of try to get into convenience food and things like that.
Okay,
that might be the area that might be hit. But right, let's go. It brings me very nicely over to Chris. Actually, thanks ever so much for that, Simon. Let's get you on, Chris. What have you picked out from the papers, please, or from online? You're still muted, by the way.
Like Simon, I picked up the Amazon story, and I thought that was quite interesting. I actually think there's quite a lot of redundancy in the States. I think they've really expanded that, and I think some of the fresh stuff, you're right. I think some of that is has not really worked out so well for them. I think logistically that doesn't kind of work so well. So I think that's interesting, and I think it's just general uncertainty in the market at the moment. There seems to be, you know, I mean, we went into last year uncertain after COVID, and excuse me, what was going to happen, how people were going to react, how the market was going to react from a food point of view. And it picked up really, really strongly. This year, we're in exactly the same situation for different reasons. And I think that, you know, we have that great level of uncertainty coming into this year with, you know, people, you know, will they afford to go out? Will they not be able to afford, you know, squeezing that middle market? I think is going to be a really, really tough time. You know, we thought we might see a lot of people closing straight after Christmas. We haven't seen that as yet. So I think that's quite a positive sign. I think Christmas was quite strong. So we are hopeful. I think on Ruth's point about the train strikes, you know, we've seen that the London market has been quite difficult because obviously people not going in. So and the other story I picked up was about fret. And I think they've been really badly hit by the situations we see ourselves in at the moment. They've always tried to keep themselves above the sort of the lower market, but I've just been announced that they're now doing an egg mayo sandwich for £2.54, which is kind of a quid below where they were before. So I think that, you know, we're now seeing Pret enter into the sort of the Greggs market and having to compete, being forced to compete. They're also doing meal deals, which they haven't done before. So I think we're seeing, you know, there's some more premium brands come down and compete. Now, whether that's the right thing or not, we'll see. But again,
I was going to ask you about that, Chris, obviously, because they're going to cut their margins, you know, substantially. You know, how the hell are they going to be able to sort of, you know, to get the footfall to manage to do that?
Well, I mean, we work with a lot of our customers, and you know, in this market, and I think that, you know, product re-engineering is a sort of buzzword at the moment, or phrase. You know, trying to take cost out of some of the stuff, offering different options that are more affordable for people. So I think that's an area we've been working on for the last sort of 6 months, being aware of you know, food inflation. You know, we saw food inflation last year around 20%, and we're still seeing prices coming through now, price increases coming through. So, you know, it is a real issue in a market where not just food, but, you know, energy prices are high as well. So I think it's a real difficult time, really difficult.
Have you picked any other story out before I move on to Adrian?
I have, yeah, very briefly, which is one of your stories, Mark, because you always tell me to do one of your stories. And it's about the promenade in Cheltenham. I think that, you know, if we're looking for some good news, you know, we are seeing people come back into the prom, you know, with Dobbies and Mint Velvet and Jigsaw. So I think that, you know, that's a positive sign, I think, for retail. When retail has been hit so badly, I think that, you know, to see people coming back into Cheltenham from, you know, bricks and mortar retail, I think is really encouraging.
No, we've got to shut it down. You know, it's funny what you said earlier about the hospitality trade. After Christmas, the restaurants and pubs are still quite full. They're not, you know, they're not all completely disappeared. Thanks ever so much for that, Chris. I'm sure we'll return to your particular individual sector. Let's get Adrian in on the game. Adrian, thanks ever so much for joining us and sitting there patiently for a second. What have you picked out from the papers, please?
Well, I chose two smaller articles just because they caught my eye, and they both involve directly, indirectly Elon Musk. And I think the first one was in the Telegraph. I know you've got a paper copy in front of you, Mark, and that was about Elon Musk bragging that kids don't need to do homework anymore because he's got a new educational program that kids can ask a bot questions, it'll answer them. And that any sort of copying software won't actually capture it. So kids actually don't need to learn. They just ask the bot the questions, their essays written for them, and they submit it. And I found it quite scary, actually, in terms of the whole basis of learning. But there, Elon Musk, as we sort of look to him as the sort of the champion for initiative, and really, is this really the right thing? I think you've got the article there. And that was the first one. And the second one, which in a sense was a really small article in the Financial Times, but I don't think it actually featured in the papers, and that was Taiwan looking to copy Elon Musk's X-Star satellite system, but rather than putting, I think it's about 8,000 satellites together in orbit, they're looking to put 29,000 satellites. And the rationale for that, and it's a tip of an iceberg, but I think a really big issue, is that the idea is that you've got instant information right around Taiwan if China invaded, but more importantly, you could link that to face recognition, you could link it to weapon systems, but effectively this whole AI carpet, you know, in the sky. And if you think of Taiwan thinking of 29,000, if America and Britain started sort of trying to do the same thing. And I was discussing something similar at the weekend with a computer tech friend of mine, and he said, well, the problem at the moment is no one really is grasping just the extent of artificial intelligence, because once it's there, it will be used. And he said, I'll give you the analogy of a driverless car. At the moment, everyone shudders at the thought of a driverless car because it might crash. But in the future, the analogy will be a driverless car is safer than a human driving the car because it excludes human error.
Well, without a shadow of a doubt. And why would you, if you've got a driverless car and you're not driving that car, why would you have a different type of car? Why would you have an expensive Bentley where you don't feel the power and the force of driving it if it's being driven by a machine? I think the whole thing gets changed. But anyway, I tell you what we got.
So,
You open up a whole can of worms there with 29,000 satellites. My goodness. So let's stay with you, Adrian, and about your development at Baker's Quay. I'm going to share my screen with you guys very, very quickly, just to see if I can get it there, and I can bring it up the top here. So, oops, the daisy. There we go. So this is the development at the moment. This is down by there. Do you want to quickly explain, Adrian, about it?
Yeah, well, very briefly, the background was we originally bought Baker's Quay in about 2016, and then everyone knows about the arson attack on phase 1, which put us back a couple of years. We were originally looking to do a small extension to Merchants Road. People were very successful with their cinema, Carluccio's, etc., and we wanted to sort of follow suit. But unfortunately, that A3 restaurant market collapsed, and we were faced to sort of look at an alternative scheme. So more residential, less restaurants, and we submitted I think in the last 7 years 5 schemes on this site, just trying to get it right for everybody. And our brief from the Conservation Office of the Council was to come up with a landmark building. So we feel that we've achieved that now. It's actually 2 buildings. The front building as the new gateway, something unique to Gloucester, and secondly behind it the reconstruction of the old Downing's Malt House, which I think you can see in a picture below, where we're oh, stop, we go far too quickly. no, not that one. Go. That's it, stop. So this was our Achilles heel in the development. This particular malt house was completely derelict on the inside when we acquired the wider Baker's Quay site. So we've secured the outside walls with lots and lots of scaffolding, and the idea is we need to rebuild the inside of it to restore the outside and link it to the new development to sort of make it viable. But the other challenge for us is bringing forward a development which is really fit for the next century, really. So what are the sort of keywords really? We're trying to avoid fossil fuels completely. We're trying to introduce an intelligent building. We have been working hard during lockdown trying to come up with an air source heat pump technology which works efficiently for apartments. So basically we've got a landlord's air source heat pump on the roof of each building, which supplies hot water to the individual apartments. We've also got PV on the roof, which generates a lot of the power for the heat pumps, so that we think we can save about £1,800 per year per apartment in electricity costs. That's the first thing. Secondly, we've got 100% EV charging capability in the building. And thirdly, we're putting an electronic backbone into the building. So in simplistic terms, you can talk to the building. So as technology advances, you can use the systems to operate your apartment, from basic things like going through the front door, collecting parcels in parcel safes in the reception area, through to actually operating the functions in the actual apartments.
So it's going to be one of the most greenest buildings in the city, if I've got it right.
It will be the greenest building in the city.
That's if you get it built, mate. I hope
well, that's the issue, and I think I think Simon's point about stability, Chris's point about stability, there's some sort of, is absolutely crucial. And, last year you saw construction costs go up 20-30%. You saw commercial values fall by 10%. If you talk to a contractor last autumn, he would say, well, I don't know if I'm going to add on another 30% next year. You say, well, how can you justify a 30% uplift in costs? And essentially what's happened is the subcontractors have got burnt in 2021-22 with rising prices because of fuel costs impacting on manufactured goods because of shortages of product. So they want to add on another 15% for next year to make sure they don't make the same mistake. And then the subcontractor gives his prices to the main contractor, and he thinks, oh gosh, I better add on 15% as well. And before you know it, you've got a 30% uplift in cost. And that's the only basis that the contractor will go forward on. And until the tender, the tender book starts drying up, and from the ground upwards, everyone says, well, no, we'll fix it today's price rather than trying to inflate it. You've got no certainty. And then at the other end of the extreme, you're looking at probably pegging values probably at the beginning of 2022 now, because so if you read the newspapers, it says house prices are falling. I don't think necessarily that's correct, but I think you'll see, I don't think you'll see any growth. And I think you'll see it sort of, if you look at the curves on house prices, basically everything we're pricing is the same as January, February last year.
Thanks ever so much, Adrian. And it actually brings us back over to Simon. Well, all three of you, what you were saying, Simon and Ruth and Chris, is about this inflation, the inflationary prices. I mean, Chris, you talked about food inflation. Simon, in your business, you got 5,000 skips being driven around, the price of fuel rocketed. How did that affect your business?
Well, the government's decision to ban red diesel, basically, and we all got to use white, that put £600,000 on our bottom line. That was straight off, we had to take that on the nose, on the chin. We have put prices up only once. We've received 6 price increases each year from all our suppliers. It's a never-ending battle. I mean, Chris, Adrian, that all tell you that you've got to constantly keep on going back over the prices and the cost of things, and it's a never-ending circle, really. It's very difficult at the moment in business, to keep your head in the right frame, as it were, not get too pessimistic with it. But the good thing is that, it's a battle, and it's testing your resolve, and you've got to be entrepreneurial. You've got to make choices. You've got to look outside the box, and you've got to be aggressive with it as well. So we're in the right space, if you like. We've invested heavily in sustainability, in recycling, and in engaging with our customers and communicating with them as to what their needs and requirements are, so that we can deliver. You've got a website. We can deliver waste management reporting, and there's a lot of communication between the two of us, so that the recycled aggregates, if you like. So we're making aggregates from waste, and we just put a £4 million wash plant in, which will become operational in March this year, where we can dig out your footings and wash them and bring the aggregate from those footings back to you to use on your site. So the whole thing is a green economy, a circular economy. And that's the only way forward. You've got to invest and look at these sustainable things, like Adrian was saying about talking to the building and things like that. Unless you engage in this and accept it all, you're going to be dead in the water, I think, anyway. You've got to push forward, and you've got to lead. So
it's all about the leadership. You're dead right in these difficult times. And some of them, like yourself, and I think all of you, you rise to the challenge. Actually, I hate to say it, you kind of enjoy it in a weird, weird way, maybe. I don't know. Ruth, I'm going to go over to you, because obviously you work with G First LEP, and obviously with Hazelwood's at the moment. I mean, how is business at the moment? Is it still as strong as ever?
Yeah, I mean, Hazelwood's is going from strength to strength. We're now almost 500 staff, and 1/4 of our staff are apprentices. So actually, I think that's a really impressive statistic, that we've got so many people that we're training to become brilliant accountants and tax advisors, corporate financiers and financial planners. So I'm really proud of the fact that we've got such a brilliant workforce. And as Adrian was saying earlier, I think it was Adrian, we've got to retain these people, and we work very hard on trying to look after our staff and keep them happy. But I was really impressed with what Adrian was saying about Baker's Quay and that potential development. I really hope it goes ahead. I mean, there's so much going on in Gloucester and across Gloucestershire, and with my G First chair hat on, I'll tell you about some of the projects that we're expecting to complete in 2023. In Gloucester, it's the railway station improvements. The new underpass should open up in 2023. And in Gloucester, we'll also see the forum, of course, is due to complete. And of course, the Debenhams building becoming the student accommodation. So the centre of Gloucester is really sort of come on since I can remember. Last 30 years ago, it was really pretty run down. It's absolutely fantastic now, the amount of activity and development and improvement going on in the centre of Gloucester. In Cheltenham, the Minster Exchange should open up in June. That's going to be the home of the Cheltenham Growth Hub, run by the LEP, and also the home for Cheltenham festivals. So looking forward to that project coming to completion. The cycle route between Cheltenham and Gloucester, that should be completed. And then we're looking at the extensions up to Bishop's Cleeve and down to Quedgeley and maybe even to Stroud, which would be great. And as the LEP, and also with my hat on with of the board of the Western Gateway, we're also really in supporting and investing in the Golden Valley development in Cheltenham. I mean, that's a fantastically exciting project for the whole of the county and the whole of the southwest, really, because cyber is such an important area for so many reasons. And it's really great to have GCHQ, which is sort of the anchor institution for it, right in the heart of our county. So Made in Gloucestershire is another wonderful project of the G1st LEP, which is the food and drink sector. That was launched last year, and we're expecting to celebrate our first 100 members in the next few weeks. I'm sure Chris will be pleased to hear that. And net zero as well. We had a net zero conference in the autumn, and we've got another one planned for the spring. But breaking news, we also have 3 new board members, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about them, if I may. Firstly, Neil Ricketts.
We don't have all the time, I'm afraid.
Just very quickly, Neil Ricketts has stepped down and is being replaced by Lucy Ackland, who's a senior engineer at Renishaw. Russell Marchand has retired, and Jackie Labby, who's the Deputy Vice Chancellor at the University of Gloucestershire, is stepping into his shoes. And we're also having Matt Leonard, who's the Chief Officer at Gloucestershire Voluntary Sector Alliance, joining us as well. So that's that wonderful coming together of the public, the private sector, education, and the voluntary sector.
Fantastic, fantastic pictures always. Thank you very much for that, Ruth. And you were all right. There's so much great stuff. Chris, let's go back over to you if that's okay, because one of the things that you guys won was the top 100. It wasn't the Times for employment.
The Times have stopped doing that now, but it's essentially the same organisation. Yeah.
Congratulations to that. So what's the secret of keeping your stuff? Because I'm going to bring this up here, like I've tried to do today with everybody, a little bit playing around. So there's some of your crew. How many staff have you got now? About
420, I think. About 420, yeah. So it's just about engagement. It's about constant communication, making sure that we're around all our different depots, and trying to make the place fun to work. I think the great thing about the survey is it gives you amazing feedback on what our staff are looking for and what concerns them and what we're not doing well. So we can take that feedback and we then plan by department, by depot, what we need to do to improve the things that they want us to improve. So
and you've got 14 sort of people as well within the organisation for mental health, haven't you?
Yeah, well-being champions. Yeah, we've had mental health training, we've had disability awareness training, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just really being aware of everyone that we employ, and it's thrown some amazing things out. And it just is a much more fun and better place to be by looking at your staff and looking how you look after them. And we really have pretty much full employment now. So including drivers and everything else, and we're not top pay. We pay above average, but people can earn more. But I think it's just the overall people do like working for us generally, yeah.
Because the hospitality trade, let's be honest about it, it is a difficult place to be. I mean, it's all difficult. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter what trade we're all in; it is difficult. But the hospitality trade, in particular, moving into 2023, this is when people are saying there's going to be a bit of a bloodbath. Do you?
Well, that's what. I think it's that uncertainty I spoke about earlier. We've in terms of where we are, energy prices, we were looking at the potential impact going back last year, and the impact could have been up to about £2 million a year for us because we've got big freezers. We use a lot of diesel for our vehicles as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a big impact there, but also that does translate through to hospitality as well. with the, so we're looking at how many places will reduce the hours they're open, how many places will shut. So there's a huge amount of uncertainty in that market at the moment. So,
and do you think that's going to save them? This cutting the hours, cutting the days. Do you think that's going to be enough?
I think if they're viable, yes. I'm, without looking at the individual businesses, and the debt that they're carrying maybe through from COVID, because we've got that legacy still with us. So it's difficult. It is really, really difficult, and it's kind of day at a time. And also, capex. We're a bit like Simon. First 3 months of the year, we're saying let's hold off on some of the investments we want to put in, because we're just not sure what's going to happen.
Mm. Can I ask Chris a question?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, Chris, what have you done in terms of sort of recession-proof in your business, if you like? I mean, do you deal with schools and colleges and
yeah, we do
for that? Yeah, so that'll become more and more important, I would imagine.
I think we do a lot of care as well, and I think that's still a market that will continue to go. I think it's the hospitality area that's the one that will suffer the most. We're not as reliant on that as some of our competitors. We're not reliant on government either. So we are right in that middle sort of market where we are. Hopefully, we'll be fairly robust. I think middle to upper market. So.
Okay, well, we're kind of running out of time. So thanks ever so much for that, Chris. Give us an overview of it. I'm going to go back over to you, Simon, as you asked a question, but I'm going to ask you what you picked out in this week's punch, please. So what's the story? Yeah, the punchline. Yes.
Well, I did try.
You sounded surprised there for a second.
I'm on sabbatical.
What you're doing? Pardon?
I'm on sabbatical. I've taken 6 months off or something like that. I'm 8 weeks in and still shaking. So I don't get Punchline delivered to my house, unfortunately, and I don't venture out of the place actually too much. But no, it's been if you want to know about that's been probably one of the best things that I've ever done. So it enables me to take an overview and a strategic look at all the businesses that I own and control or have dealings with, and to plan and organize your responses or decision-making process and become a better leader, a better person, a better owner, director, whatever you want to call it. So I've got a good management team, and a good board, and it's been a breath of fresh air really at the moment anyway.
And you're looking great, by the way. You're looking great. That's the thing, isn't it? You can have a bit of a break, and if you can afford to do that, and got the team behind you to do that. Good for you, mate. Hopefully we'll catch up for a coffee very soon as well. Yeah. What have we caught up for this week's punchline, please? What's the story?
Well, I'd like to do good news stories that you are very good at highlighting in your in Punchline. Firstly, Superdry bouncing back. Good to see them having an increase in sales of about 4%, but the store's revenue has gone up almost 15%, which is quite. I was surprised by that, but apparently autumn range was pretty successful, and Julian Dunkerton's looking happy about that. Another fashion brand of Gloucestershire, Holland Cooper, they've seen a huge rise in profits for 2022, and their profits have gone up from 3.2 million to just over 4 million. So impressive there as well. A very good and popular but high-end Gloucestershire brand. So well done to Holland Cooper. And Ontic as well has had a record-breaking 12 months. They recruited 350 people in 2022, taking their workforce to over 1,000. And they're looking to double that number again. They've won 13 exclusive licensing agreements. They provide complex engineering parts to the aerospace industry, and they are going fantastically well. So although there are businesses suffering, there are also businesses in Gloucestershire doing wonderfully well. So congratulations to all of them, and congratulations to you for highlighting them.
No, thanks very much, Ruth. That's very kind always. Adrian, what have you picked out from this week's podcast?
Well, I have to be mischievous here and say our development at Downings at Baker's Quay. But I think the one thing to sort of that we were trying to get across is this low energy, low carbon homework. We spent quite a lot of time during lockdown using that time usefully. You can't just this technology is not just necessarily on the shelf. so we spent a lot of time trying to work out how you can apply it to an apartment building in residential, and in a way that people can actually benefit from it. So that's a lot of knowledge learned, and it's very relevant. There's lots of net zero discussions taking place at the moment. This is not totally carbon net zero. We've had other projects post Baker's Key that we've gained from that knowledge, and that will continue, and I think that's going to be a real discussion point going forward.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that, Adrian. Chris, have you got any other stories from Punchline?
No, I was talking about the one earlier on about the optimization of the promenade, as you call it, and I think that's just a really strong, and with Ruth saying about supervised sales increasing, it's kind of good to see that we've got people coming back onto the high street. We've got people spending money on bricks and mortar shops. So I think that's quite, and then you're looking at the other side of that with Amazon losing their people. Are we seeing reversal into the high street?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's all we've got time for today. Thanks ever so much for my fantastic panel. Thanks for joining Punchline Talks. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And again, I'd just like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. And I'm going to see if I can actually switch this off, because I've got a funny feeling I can't find the off button. You guys couldn't find the sort of the sound of video. So let me have a look. Do you know what? It's disappeared. It's the off button for this is completely. Look at that. I broke my glasses as well. So before I go, no, hold on. Where is the off button? Goodness gracious. Anyway, thank you all so very much for joining us. See you again next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.